first point, specifically, you're losing your free will, kind of talking about this dichotomy between addiction versus free will, challenges that, because if you're addicted to something, and addiction at this point we all can, I think, understand and know that it's a mental disorder. Like, yes, maybe you made the choice to get yourself into the addiction, you chose to do the heroin, you downloaded Instagram, and part of that was social pressures, and so there's a lot going into addiction that could lead you there, but once you're in it, it's really hard to get out because it's chemically altered your consciousness. And so there's this, struggling with addiction versus the free will, and the fact that the mode of this medium necessarily makes us addicted. Like, I think he mentioned somewhere in the chapter that gambling, like the developers of gambling devices were like upset that social media developers basically took their model and did it better and are making more money than them. See, I'm gonna move my notes. Not over there. I want to be able to see. I don't need to see myself. Okay. So, and this can be related back to kind of Postman and McLuhan and just this basic, like, the medium is the message, and the medium itself, especially as Postman kind of highlighted in this history of typographic age to a television age, like, changes us, changes humanity. And a quote that really stood out in this chapter, he says, "The addict gradually loses touch with the real world and real people. When many people are addicted to manipulative schemes, the world gets dark and crazy." And so I think especially with, compared to Postman and what he saw as changes in humanity and American society with the television has, is worse effects that we see with specifically social media, and especially in the last few years, TikTok and this kind of short clip media that has taken over every platform. Like, it kind of used to just be exclusive to Vine or TikTok, this short, 7-second, 10-second, 30-second clips, but now every single platform, maybe with the exception of, like, I don't know about Reddit, and then obviously some of them, I don't know if Twitter has this function at this point, but Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, like the ones that could cultivate some sort of value in terms of staying connected with family, finding out about local events, having a feel for public opinion. All of a sudden, these these clips that, like, do serve this kind of dopamine addicted feed are present all the time, and it's really hard to escape those. But not only is it just the addictive nature of the technology, but particularly it's the advertising that has changed, and that's really where he argues our free will, in this sense, to be away from constant Okay, that was a bad way of saying it, because we don't choose to, like, participate in advertising. It happens to us. But what he's arguing is that we are choosing to participate and be victim to constant malicious advertising that never ever stops. In the past, it was, there was a TV ad and we all saw the same ad, or it was a newspaper or a magazine ad or a billboard and we all saw the same thing. And it wasn't individualized to our particular interests and demographic and all that. But now, he says, "Everyone who is on social media is getting individualized, continuously adjusted stimuli without a break, so long as they use their smartphone. What might once have been called advertising must now be understood as continuous behavior modification on a titanic scale." And so that's where he sees this loss of free will, is that the way that these technologies, this advertising has been developed, is it's inherently behavior modification, in the same way that, give a dog a treat and it'll do this thing again, give the dopamine and they'll come back to our platform and get the ads and buy the things that they can make content about or that they think will make their lives better. And so it's constant stimulus, it's constant advertising, and it's really hard to get out of. the last thing from this section that I'll highlight that I think like really stood out to me and kind of opens the door to a more philosophical conversation, whether that happens in this session after the fact or in the future, that I think I would actually love to revisit this book in the critical media theory cohort, maybe next iteration or a following one, and actually come in with a lot more of like even a classical philosophical companion to it, because I think it's necessary when he uses words like what I'm about to say. So he says, the pervasive surveillance and constant subtle manipulation becomes normalized, and he calls this unethical, cruel, dangerous, and inhumane. So those are all big ideas that, we could explore like the true extent of ethics and morality and how this becomes unethical, because at the end of the day, it's just advertisers trying to do their job and make money. But when the actual advertising and the job itself becomes manipulating human beings, even though it's not necessarily a conscious effort behind these advertisers, so let's manipulate people, that ends up being the effect. That's some muddy water. So the second point, quitting social media is the most finely targeted way to resist the insanity of our times. This argument, like the tagline, the chapter title, really caught my eye, and I went, wow. And I immediately started thinking about what he was going to talk about, and he didn't end up talking about anything that I thought he would talk about, but resisting the insanity of our times. Because when I saw that, I thought, okay, wow, so we have this deeply, like this rooted value system within our own lives, and we can choose. So if that's, personally, it's like I think this craziness going on with the left and the right, particularly online and on TikTok and in all these videos, I think it's crazy. It's insane. It's in brainworms land. I don't want to be a part of it. And so I thought that's where he was going to go with the argument, like, oh, if you are against something, choose to resist it, choose to not participate. This is where he ended up kind of developing the bummer idea. But I think we can kind of like, that's what I took away from it, is kind of being based or rooted in values, that you have a clear value system, and actively choosing not to participate. And the interesting thing is, and kind of the contradiction of the internet, is we all have values. We, like, whether or not we are clear on what they are or not, but the internet and the medium makes it difficult to actually follow through on or live up to those values. And that, I think, kind of gets into the third point, the assholism. I said, Dave, we can play the clip from Pink Flamingos where he goes, "You've been convicted of assholism, prepare to die." But that's a whole can of worms, sweetie. Let's see, I'm trying to think. A couple other interesting points that he talked about in this chapter from his Silicon Valley perspective is, so these algorithms, I think he was more talking about like the insanity of the algorithms. These algorithms have so much information on us, to the fact that they can figure out how fast we read, when we take breaks from reading, what keeps us reading, how long we click off of a reading. So it's more than just, oh, what content are you interested in? But it's as like kind of obscure as our reading pace. And that was kind of a fascinating, like, oh wow, these algorithms really do know everything about us, to the point where they know us more than our loved ones know us, and they know us more than even we know ourselves. And it's like beyond an intimate way. It's like, well, they know random shit about us. It's like, okay, my reading speed, is that really that important? For the algorithm, it is. And it's kind of weird that some online digital technical entity has all this information on us. And so that was really interesting. And he does point out that, the bummer machine is not just a technology, but he says that it's a business plan.